Hey guys, Alan here again, Gibson Automotive Design. Today I'm working on 2004 GMC Envoy or a Trailblazer. This has the 4.2 straight 6 in it. I'm getting a 0016 code over and over, and I've replaced the camshaft sensor, the crankshaft sensor, the CVVT, and yeah, those three are all brand new, and I'm still getting the code. So seeing as how there's head work, the technician said I should probably get in there and check and make sure the timing chain and all the marks are lined up correctly. Next, you're going to want to remove this air box. It's only held on by just these two bolts here on either side of the inlet tube. And then on this side you'll have, you've got the hose clamps, of course, but you've got this guy here and one underneath, attaches right there. Careful when you yank up on that. It's just a short hose. And then this pops right off. The wiring harness isn't so bad either. This actually was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. But you just have your two switches here, your camshaft and your CVVT. You've got this guy, and just down there by the oil filter is your oil pressure switch. And then you've got to take off the connector for your secondary air injector. Your 6 injectors here, and there's one plug back there. These two guys, and there was, I think that was it. And then, yeah, careful when you're pulling up. These guys are wedged in some holes, but this will just flop right over to the side when you're done like that. Next, I'm going to pull, I think I'm going to pull this guy off so I can get the valve cover off and get a look at the top end of it at least. And I'll let you know how that goes. This guy came off with just 2 nuts and 2 bolts. And your intake bolts, there's going to be one here and then 2 in between them as you go along, and then one on the end over there. Alright, so I've got the intake manifold off, so we can now get to these bolts here on this side. And these ones here, first I'll have to take out the coils. But then the next thing we should see is these cam gears, and I took a look at everything, and here's a little shot of the head for you so you can see what's going on. Now, I did loosen up these bolts here for this fuel rail just enough so I can fudge this around just enough to get that intake manifold out of there. And it's a really tight squeeze. To give you an idea of the bolt pattern, you're looking at, what's that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 bolts. Valve cover is off, and I found a couple timing marks. There's not really where the white thing is, but if you look in close, you could see a little mark there. And then over here there's a dot, and they're supposed to match up to those dark links there. I just gotta pop off the pulley in that timing cover. So I've got the pulley off. It took some work. I had to make a tool to hold it still. bit of steel bar, square, put 2 bolts in it. Just locked it in like that against the spokes. Give me just enough room to put my 15/16. We are going to have to drop the oil pan, and there's actually 3 bolts here, 1, 2, 3, along with I don't know, a bunch underneath. I'll crawl down here. Okay, so on closer inspection, it looks like I am going to just remove this. I'm going to try to remove this cross member. I've already put some penetrating lube on there and let them sit. Hopefully the suspension doesn't go crazy on me for undoing these 2 bolts, but we'll find out. Alright, so here's what I found out. This cross member looks like it's gonna come out. It's actually 2 pieces. There's the focus, let's see. There it is there. There's 1 piece. You can see the dirty part that mounted up against right here. And then it was just 3 bolts. 3 bolts there. And this light sucks. And then 2 bolts right underneath, right here. And over there, right there, that guy. And then same on the other side. 2 bolts on bottom. 3 bolts inside, and that takes off the first piece. And then you got underneath, you got 2 large bolts here, and then another smaller 15, just like all the other ones for the first piece were 15 millimeter. And then these big guys are 21 millimeter. And then it looks like once we remove this bolt here, this cross member will come out on both sides, and we're going to get this oil pan out. Alright, so the cross member's out, and after looking, the rack and pinion was still in the way, so I undid the 1 bolt on that side and was able to just let this rack and pinion fall. Pull that down. Tire's gonna come in a little bit there. That's okay. We got plenty of room now, I think, to drop this. We're just gonna undo these 4 bolts here. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one right up there. There's the 4. Oh, look at that. It's loose already. Alright, so I managed to get the oil pan loose. And the rack is still in the way, even though I dropped one end. If you wanted to remove this oil pan, you would have to remove the rack and pinion completely by removing, let's see, by removing that hose there to it. There's 2 hoses. But for what I need, there's a little nut right there, or a bolt, that guy right there. I can get to it now to remove the pickup tube. And then, alright. So you can see I removed the bolt there. Let's see if this guy comes out now. Okay. You see, it was just a hair behind that pump. I haven't had to remove this pump, but it is behind there a little bit. So, up here, the power steering pump, this tab actually sits behind it, so pay attention to that. And voila! It took over 24 hours to get to this point, finally. Let's see, let's take a look at this guy here. And you see that's where that oil pump hooked to, or the pickup tube hooked to. So that's why that had to be dropped. The oil pan, all of that underneath was to just undo that one guy. Alright, so the new parts are in. I got the cam gear and the bolt. And this is the, it's got that variable timing. I got that new because it has to do with the variable timing part of the system. It's not just a hard part like this sprocket, it's just a hard part, and as long as there's no too much wear on the teeth and like that sprocket, actually it's down there, you know, there's no bushings and the teeth aren't worn down, so I'm going to reuse those. But the chain, the shoes on both sides, that's whole sprocket, I'm going to change, and then the tensioner, of course, is going to be all brand new. I've also got this part here, the secondary air injection valve. I'm replacing that too, and probably before I throw the valve cover on. And then I got some, so my next step is to break that bolt loose. And I bought some cam clamps, and I've bought this leverage tool, but these are all for like the wider Honda cam gears that have belts, you know, something like that. Not for these thin sprockets for chains. I've tried using them, and they just keep popping off. And there's not a whole lot of room in there for any of them. So I should have just thought of this first. But it's not hitting anything important. No cams. And as long as I keep the chain from slipping, it should be alright. So I got a 10mm socket on this, really big. I think this is a 6mm Allen. And then 10-inch extension. I'm gonna yank on it here slowly. See, it's starting to bend. Hopefully nothing breaks. There, you'll probably still be able to get in there if you find out they're leaking. But that's inside there is where you're going to find the bolt hole for these, for this shoe, and that one for that shoe. Alright, so here we have the old stuff all taken out. Your tensioner, this is the adjustable shoe. Notice it's only got one bolt on top, and it's got this collar, so it swivels. This shoe is mounted with 2 bolts. You can see the grooves worn into these guys. I think these are original. I think whoever did the head didn't bother with any of this. I can definitely tell that guy's original with all the carbon stains on it. It's got to be original. So that means the chain, everything probably is. Here's the new stuff. This is actually the old crank sprocket. I put that in some chem tool overnight because it was as orange or brown or whatever as the rest of this stuff, but you can see that stuff works really well. No scrubbing. Just rinsed it off with WD-40. And then new shoes, new tensioner, the chain, the variable timing sprocket, the new guide plate too. This is important also for timing. I noticed this guy's got a nice bow in it that sits in between the two cam gears like that and pushes down on the chain. That guy is actually bent the other direction. It's so worn out. It's like falling off at the left end over there, a little bit at the right. But this kit includes all of that. Included everything but this sprocket and that sprocket. That's next. So I just need to set these camshafts in the very back here. You can see this one's not flat. I'll put the sprocket on it and turn it a little bit, but this one's mostly flat. You want both of those flat spots facing up. They're like half moon shaped, facing up. There's a tool you can get. It's just a flat piece of bar, maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/4 inch thick, and it's got two little half moon cutouts, so it slides right over the cams, holds them in place. Could not find that tool at a local auto parts store. I found them online, anywhere from 15 to 30, 40 bucks, but you saw I found another way to do it, so I didn't have time to wait for ordering more parts. Well, I will let you know how this goes back together. Alright, so here it is, everything installed. You can see the new shiny variable camshaft sprocket. I cleaned up the plugs, got those in, got the chain guide, the two shoes. The chain, of course, is brand new. And here's I'm going to show you the marks. There's a dot here on this one. Other cars I noticed don't have the variable timing. It looks just like this sprocket, but same thing applies still, I think. You got that dot for that black link. You have a line for this black link. And then down under here is another circle lined up on that black link. But it's all set, and I think the last thing to do is just pull this little guy out. You want to do this last, I think. And that will, it's a sort of a ratcheting mechanism. Gosh, that's crazy. And you can tell this is free play. I checked it. This is the one that swivels. It has that shoulder on the bolt in here. Before I installed this swiveled really easy back and forth, so I know that works. The other one had stuck out a ways. You could see all that brown right there. That's how much was sticking out on that guy. And I think that's mainly because of the grooves that it cut into these shoes and some of the chain stretching and that guy being worn out. So you could see the difference between brand new and an old one. And like I said, this is an 04, so this thing's over 10 years old. I think all that's left to do now, I got the cover here. I'm gonna clean it up, install these seals. Alright, so I've got the timing cover prepped, clean. I got the new seal in. Let's see, I got this O-ring here. This is for the pickup tube. You want to put just a little bit of oil on that. Make sure you keep this surface clean, but just a little bit of oil on that's alright. I think you want to keep that dry too. Ran a 3mm bead all the way around. There's a groove. Fill in the groove. Make sure it sticks a little bit above the surface. And then let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. It's pretty cold here, so you can see the new seal here. So, the last guy put way too much sealant. All these holes were just completely filled in. I had to clean out every one of these holes. Oh, that reminds me. You want to run a bead around these guys too. 1, 2, and then right here 3. So run the 2 beads right there, and then the 3 circles right here. Change your 2 rubber seals and your crankshaft seal. And this is pretty cool. This is actually the pin that was in the timing chain tensioner. So I'll just shove that back in there. Fits in there just right. The bolt hole, that is actually one of them there. The head of that bolt there. Screw goes right in the center. That's your really small one. And then the third one here. That big rubber seal. That's for the oil filter. Make sure you take the old O-ring off here, because that'll probably be stuck on there. Clean this surface again. And then the oil or the water pump gasket for the other side of this timing cover. You won't put that on yet until you get this bolted down. I think I still got a few more minutes to wait here, and then I'll slap it on. Alright, so I've got it sitting on there, and I did have to take out the 3 bolts and move that away really quickly, but it wasn't a big deal. It's just sitting there right now. There's these 2. These are all your water pump bolts, and these 2 and this one here are the only 3 that are different, and those are the 3 that we put sealant on earlier. 1, 2, and 3. The short one will go in the middle, and then the other 2 will go in either one of those other 2, and the rest just go along the outside. You want to do this and the rest of them pretty quickly, and get the water pump on next pretty quickly, because these 3 bolts also hold down the timing cover, so you want to get those in quick before the RTV completely dries. Alright, so I got the cover on. I've got the water pump in and the pulley on that. I got the radiator in and the condenser in place. Something about these bolts, make sure you pay attention when you pull these bolts out. It's not gonna work, but because they do go in specific spots. And the 5, they all kind of seem the same, but the 5 water pump bolts are a little longer, so keep those separated. These 3 on this side, they look the same as all the rest of them on this side, but they've got this rounded head. They're not quite square. I don't know what the significance of that is. Maybe just to keep them separated. Maybe they got a different torque spec, but it's all supposed to be 89 anyway, so inch-pounds. 1, 2, and then a third one there. Go back in those spots. And then the tiny 7 mil here. 2 longer ones there. And then other than those 3 and those 3, all the rest of them are the same. It wouldn't matter which way they went back in. But just keep them bagged, like the water pump bolts separately. These three, make sure, you know, these two are the same. Those can only go back in those two holes. And this is a tiny 7 mil that only goes in that hole. So just pay attention. I also realized that I was going to have to clean the gasket surface on the oil pan. So I did have to drop the rack the rest of the way a little bit. As you can see, I got some good sunlight. You just undo that one main bolt here, and along with the one main bolt on the other side. You can leave them connected to the rims. And then there's a little, that's an 8mm nut holding a flange and holding both pipes in, so you don't have to worry about a line wrench. And then the steering shaft is pretty simple. I think it's a 15mm, and it's only about 1.5 inches long. You pull it out because it locks the shaft in place, and then wiggle it and wiggle it and wiggle it back and forth as it comes down. Let the tires bow in as you pull it down, and then I'm gonna let this finish draining. Now you can see now there's plenty of room, there's nothing in the way. That'll come straight down. I'm gonna clean it, put it back on, and I haven't done the harmonic balancer yet because of the 3 bottom bolts on the timing cover. I want to be able to get to those bottom bolts. You see it barely. And then I'll put the balancer on. So I wanted to show you the oil pan now that I had it out. I've actually done a lot of cleaning on the mounting surface already. Scraped all the gasket out of the grooves. I'll show it when I'm done before I slap it in there, but I'm going to put a bead in the groove and then a circle around each bolt hole and a connecting bead. And, I also wanted to show you just how filthy this thing is. This is what happens when you don't change your oil enough. Most people probably think not a whole lot of damage happens when you don't change your oil. You just get dirty oil, but this is what the whole inside of your engine could look like from burned oil being used too long. Here's the oil pan all cleaned up for the most part. It's about the best I'm gonna give it. And then I've got that. Got my buddy Mike laying that beautiful bead of caulking around there. I think that's exactly how it should be. And he was doing that while I was putting the front end of this thing back together. I've got the sub grill, I guess you could call it. The core support and the latch, that's all in now. Let's see, we're getting towards the nighttime here, so we got too many shadows. But I've got the surface cleaned up on the bottom of the engine block as well in the meantime, so I'm going to let this sit for about another 3 days, and it should be gummy enough to stick on there.